What's up, YouTube? 2020 Tantra on Amazon. Info in the description. Crown Tantra now also available. So, are you listening or are you thinking? You're a channel. You're an antenna. So, whenever you are thinking visually or auditorily, you're receiving. So, whatever you identify with, whatever echelon of you identify with, determines your level of thinking, the level of thoughts that you identify with, and your echelon of creation. So when you are receiving auditory thought, it immediately sends you into separation, because words, again, thinking in language, you're thinking in words. So words are a collection or a summation of sounds being separated, because you're separating sounds to create a word, and then you arrange those words into letters. Into sentences. So that's how you're communicating within yourself. That's how you're receiving words, and you're doing that in language. And whenever you do that, you're stepping into the time and space identity, the rational mind, the body, the limitations that come with that, the identities, whatever the body identifies with, its desires, and the limitations that come with that, and the giveth and the taketh that comes with that. So all the paradigms that come with that perception are immediately ushered in your reality as soon as you identify with the auditory thought. You're immediately bringing your energy into that echelon of creation. So you're investing your energy, your attention, into that echelon of manifestation. So when people are masturbating, they're really listening. They're really in a trance. Everyone is really listening. They think they're thinking. Their energy is at a certain level of vibration where certain thoughts reside and cycle there. And as they identify with that level of vibration and the identities that are at that level and the ancestry that's at that level, then they continually synchronize with those thoughts, and then they continue to act out what those thoughts bring, what those thoughts manifest. So it's an internal mantra, basically. You stay at a certain vibration, you're going to continue to synchronize with certain thoughts, and that's just like synchronizing with a mantra internally. So then you act it out. Now, if you stay in society, that you have no choice. That inception is going to happen, because your body is going to continually synchronize with the rest of the subconscious bodies around you. So you'll continually, gradually have infestation of thought, just because you're within a certain field of energy. So that's also critical to know, as far as like where you're laying your head every night. That's where you're resetting. That's where you're going into the void. And every time you go into that place, whatever's synchronized around you, all those subconscious thoughts and everything that's synchronized in that's going into the void with you. So then you come out, you're going into your dream manifestation, your supreme creative state, with all that synchronized, all that attachment synchronized to you. So when people are masturbating, they're really in a trance. They're identifying with a certain level of vibration, with the thoughts that come with it. They're in a trance at that level. Then they act out the masturbation. Again, masturbation. Blood is the creation. It is the light. So you bring the blood or the energy to a certain level, a certain echelon, certain chakra, whatever. If the blood's in your brain, then you create from that level. If your blood's in your reproductive organs, then you only create from that level. So it's just about where you identify with. And you can't identify with this place if your blood isn't in that place. Wherever your blood is where you identify with. If your blood is all in your chest muscles and arms, then that's your identity. That's where you have invested your blood. That's where your identity goes. So that's masturbating. That's how you bait. Wherever you bait the blood to, the blood is the master. It is creation. That is the source. So when you subconsciously synchronize like that, and then you bait the master, you bring the blood to reproductive organs, to the root chakra like that. You're baiting your energy. You're giving up that responsibility. You're killing yourself, because energy is responsibility. So you're giving off that creative energy. You're bringing that seed energy to a head, and you're sacrificing it because you don't want the responsibility. You'd rather give it to the subconscious. So you give it up to to a God in a sense, because you're synchronizing, putting God external to you. Whenever you throw the seed, you're taking the God in you, putting it outside of you. So in that process, it has to happen internally and externally. So you are sacrificing to a God that you've created, that you've externalized, that you've made a, a temple of, or however you want to look at it, an idol, whatever. It's a succubus that you give your energy to, consciously or unconsciously. So you synchronizing with an identity. You bait the blood, which is creation. You give up the responsibility, which is the energy, which is the light, which is the blood. And, it's all from the trance triggers. You're going in and out of different trance triggers. There's different trance triggers in your day that make you think a thought auditorily, and then that triggers a visual thought. Or you get a visual thought, and then that triggers the auditory thought, and then that sends you in that snake reptilian mind, that brainstem auditory thought mind, that separation mind. So you have to make constant changes so that you realize what the reality is. So that's what feng shui is. It's just just staying conscious. The Zen garden, that's what it's all about, just making subtle changes in the matrix so that the Mandela effect doesn't happen unconsciously, so that you don't let the subconscious take control of the subtle changes. If you are present for 24 hours of a day, if you could just breathe consciously for one single day for 24 hours and accept all day and receive, and then from there you know what reality is, and then you can make your subtle changes, and then you realize that your subtle changes change the world because you don't see separation. And then your life is just profound. Every movement, every breath is profound, and that's what it's about, living the dream anyway. Consolidating your energy so that you can stop living all those what ifs, bring it all into one dream, and live the one aligned dream. Or you can just live a crystallized dream, synchronize with a bunch of people's subconscious, because that's what this is a bunch of pineal glands have crystallized. They've crystallized into this dream, this locked prism of light that is a dream of limitation, basically, where it's like a hush hush dream, like don't tell anybody that they're still sleeping type dream. It's like the rule of this game or something. So everybody's basically just stuck in astral projection. So they're just like trance syncing all day, projecting with each other, creating this projection, this crystallized projection, this 3D prism of light that we call the reality. So it just keeps us living in limits, and the more we live in limits, the more we it's crazy. The more limits you have, the more separation you create. The more boundary you create, the more separation. More limits is more boundaries, so more separation. And then because you're trying to hoard and separate, trying to consolidate in a mechanical way, and then you create separation physically, and then you create inbreeding in all sorts, whether it's physical inbreeding, whether it's you die unconsciously and then you meet your sister and it's love, and you confuse that love for romantic love, and then you inbreed that way. Inbreeding is what's happening here. So the inbreeding is what's creating the separation, because people aren't consciously creating the separation. It's going to happen unconsciously. So then you unconsciously inbreed to create the separation that way. So that's pretty much what's been going on. A bunch of unconscious inbreeding. Because there's no separation. There's never been any separation, just fragmentation. So that's pretty much it. If you look at anything that doesn't diversify genetically, it begins to dilute. The more that you define something, the more refined it becomes, the more that the presence becomes diluted, and then the more you have to compensate the reality of that thing. The more subconscious support it needs, more insurance that it needs, and the reality needs. And that's why we have a crystallized subconscious reality that we've invested to. So when you align the body, the endocrine system, and you fill all the voids by letting them fill themselves and vibrating the body, cleaning it out, and resonating at a higher frequency, then you can remember to forget, or forget to remember, however you want to look at it. But what the DMT does, or what DMT is, that place when you open the first eye, or the third eye, the crown chakra, or whatever, it brings you to that place where you can forget, so where you can remember your immortality and forget the learned behavior. So that, and then all things do that. Weed makes you think undomesticated thoughts. Psilocybin, they all make you think more undomesticated thoughts. They make you forget the false identity, and that brings you more. It makes you remember to forget. So that's the place that you can go to for your immortality to maintain it. That's within you, but it's also a physical place too. Whether it be Eden, Hyperborea, the North Pole, or whatever you want to call it, but it's a physical place. Everything is manifested physically, inwardly, and outwardly. It's a physical place that you can go to return the light to the source, to where you can recharge and have your immortality physically. Then you can dabble in time and space and try to share your immortality. Then you got to come back. If you die unconsciously, you can get caught in the fragmentation of a different realm. Whether you get caught all the way out where Saturn is the sun, or where Mars is the sun, or where we are, where Apollo is the sun, or where Mercury is the sun, is the true wet dream. That is the pineal. That is the prostate, or the prostate. That the great deep is the reflection of that. That's the great deep would be the eternal subconscious waters that people have fallen into, and you have the conscious waters, the real wet dream, where you inhale amplified light, and you just breathe your dream each breath, and you're living at a high frequency and living in physical immortality. That this is the projection from that dream. It's a smaller space but more presence. This is greater space with less presence, more empty space, however you want to look at it. If you're looking at the subatomic level of this creation, of this projection of reality, this hologram. So that's again, that's the reflection of the great deep. And that is the pineal, or the physical pineal, the North Pole, where you can go to recharge. And again, it's not even perceivable to somebody that hasn't fixed their karmas. They're not even going to be able to get through the electromagnetic, which you're calling the aurora borealis. That is what's keeping people in the grid. And the australis, the aurora borealis, or whatever, is what's keeping the lower levels from getting into this level of consciousness. So, and we live on a tree of life, and it's a root system all the way from where Saturn is the sun to where Hyperborea. It's a tree of life in different levels, different echelons. So depending on your density, it determines where you reincarnate from, where your consciousness is, where you bring the light to, where you bring the blood to, where you disseminate or inseminate from, at which echelon you bring the light to and respawn from. That's the game. So when your body's basically being dragged by the astral body. So you continue to you collect all your dream energy. You project into the future and your aligned future. You live all the lifetimes until you die or reach a point where you can't accept. Then you wake up. That's why it's a good morning, because you are mourning who you were yesterday. You killed who that person was, and then you wake up. So you go to sleep, supposedly, and then you project. Your astral body projects in alignment with the truest light, and until it reaches a point where it can't accept anymore. Then you wake up, and then your body follows the path, and then you go to sleep, and then you project further, and then you wake up, and then and then that's the immortality. But if you're never in alignment, you never get to a point of reference, then you just continually downward spiral, and then you never wake up, and you just stay asleep in the dream, and you continue to go to sleep in the dream. So for me personally, this image you're seeing is basically a collection of energy, a bunch of fragmented light that has become self-realized. So it's what basically the Taylor is. It's the collection of subconscious energy that has been pretty much pressed together by other people's subconscious. That's what we all are, but that's basically what this body is. Pressurized subconscious energy that has been pulled together until it realized itself, and now has become a self-realized body. So with that said, knowing that and realizing that and watching that happen, you know that there's an opposite side of that. You know that there's the physical, natural, organic immortality through consciousness, and then you have the mechanical immortality, or the vamp ramp. And I feel like there's definitely one individual that has accrued all the physical wealth on this world, and that is what people are calling the physical reptilian immortal, the person that is trying to merge with machine and trying to project that dream to make all the other pineal glands crystallize that dream as well, so that those endeavors are expanded upon. So people expand more energy and more money into transhumanism, into those technologies to prop up that dream even more. As the consciousness shifts every 6,400 years, there's even more of a base to continue that dream. So you can't look. You have to really look beyond your 70-year scope, and then you can realize that how any altering any memory, the Terminator effect or whatever you alter, or the Mandela effect of altering memories, a parasite altering any memory shifts lifetimes for everyone, and then you have to go back in and remember, basically realize what isn't you and what is. So there is definitely a machine that's becoming self-actualized, which is basically physical organic consciousness that's trying to merge with machine, and then you have the body, which is the organic machine that is merging with consciousness or God and realizing itself and realizing light and organically realizing immortality. So you have your physical cyborg, and you have your whatever polar opposite to that. So that'd be the oneness. That'd be your physical God state when you're totally self-realized, and you want to reincarnate people from a higher level, and then make man in a whole nother level of image, no identity, of no boundary. So from that state of being, once you're totally self-realized, when people die, you can breathe them up, and then they can realize their life from within you, and then you can consciously rebirth them. And then the more people that know themselves, you don't have to have the kid mechanically though. They can come. You could just meet two people that are your family because there's no separation, and then you remind them of themselves, and then basically just like a handoff, basically because you're housing the consciousness, and then the consciousness can just leap if you bring it in within the radius. It's the same thing with parasites. So it's complementary or it's offensive. It could be done either way, but there's organic immortality and there's inorganic immortality, and there is no choice. But the long defines the short. But that's what people are experiencing. That's the matrix that we're caught in. This crystallized lie, LIEF. It's the false light, scrambled light. That's pretty much what we're in, and every time we take a picture or we feed into it, we feed into the subconscious more and more, and we're just feeding into the projection more and more, and everybody with big money knows about this. Like if you look at Elon Musk, he knows this is a virtual reality. This is not real. This is not a real dream. This is a simulation overlay over the base reality, and most people are locked in that. So people are just afraid of killing what isn't really there anyway, which is their false identity, which is their parasite, and that's what keeps them in this body. Because the parasite keeps you in that fear, then you stay locked in that, then you do meet your death unconsciously, and then your soul just stays trapped in the physical realm because you didn't undo, and you spent your whole life trying to find out who you were, and then you found out the last minute. So now you gotta reincarnate to remember who you are again, to try to fix the karma. But once the karmas are fixed, then you can return your body to the source of light, and that's what all immortals have done, or the people that we perceive as immortal, timeless people. They all return their light to the source. They just live in a less dense reality than we do, and we can't perceive them, so they are dead to us, but we are the ones that are truly dead. So 2020 Tantra on Amazon, info in the description. Crown Tantra also in the description. You can find me on all social media.